Space weather this week gives us a lot of eye candy to look at. As we switch to our front side sun, you can see that bright region there. That is a new cycle bright region. Unfortunately, it never became a sunspot. However, we do have a lot of prominence activity because of that, and including a big filament that looks like it might let go. If it happens to launch, it'll be a nice solar storm that could even be Earth directed, so we're paying very close attention to it. On top of that, we also have a mini little bright region in the south, and it's been firing off a couple little tiny flares, not enough to give us a big solar storm or anything like that, but it also is another fun thing to watch and brings us some much needed activity we haven't seen in quite some time. We also have a small coronal hole that's rotating into the Earth strike zone, which could bump us up to unsettled conditions, which we've kind of been sitting at anyway, but don't expect a lot from it. And then after about a week, we have yet another finger-like coronal hole, and that could give us a slightly larger burst of fast wind in about a week. Now, as we switch to our far side sun, this is stereo A, and it's looking at the sun pretty much from the side. You can see that bright region in the northern hemisphere that's leaving the west limb in stereo's view. But now look at this on the east limb of stereo's view in the south. Look at this bright region. And as it begins to rotate into view, wait for it, bam! Did you see that? That is a solar storm launch. That's a gorgeous thing to see. And on top of that, we also have, just following it, in the northern hemisphere, yet another new cycle bright region. So it looks like this new solar cycle is finally beginning to take hold. Don't know when we're going to be calling it the official start of the new cycle, but man, this activity is making it feel like it's our old-time sun again. Last month, Comet Atlas dashed our hopes of a brilliant display when it began to disintegrate right before our eyes. But by chance, scientists now have an opportunity to study its disintegration in progress. Believe it or not, the trajectory of the Solar Orbiter, the second mission launched over the past 18 months to study the Sun, is about to pass right through the dust and plasma tails of the comet. Back at the end of April, Comet Atlas had already fractured into more than half a dozen pieces, as shown in amazing photos by the Hubble Space Telescope. So when scientists compared the trajectories of Solar Orbiter and the comet, they found an unexpected coincidence. Solar Orbiter might pass through the tail of Comet Atlas here over the next 2 weeks. Starting on May 31st or June 1st, Solar Orbiter could cross the outer ion tail of Comet Atlas and sample the cometary gas getting ionized by the sun's radiation and blown in the solar wind. If the comet is losing enough material at that time that Solar Orbiter makes its crossing, both the magnetometer and particle instrument could detect the ion tail directly. And then later, on June 6th, Solar Orbiter should then pass through the neutral dust field left by the disintegration of Atlas. Depending upon how much dust the comet has lost, the orbiter may be able to observe the dust slamming into the spacecraft directly or identify its presence through interplanetary field enhancements. In a new article published in the Journal of Research Notes of the AAS, the authors Jones, Afghan, and Price said if, quote, the Solar Orbiter instruments detect material from Comet Atlas, it will be the first predicted serendipitous comet tail crossing by an active spacecraft carrying appropriate instrumentation for the detection of cometary material. Hey, perhaps the disintegration of Atlas won't be such a letdown after all. For more details on this week's space weather, including more info about comets Atlas and Swan, come check out my channel or see me at spaceweatherwoman.com.